Hi everybody, my name is Brian Stramberg. My blog is at c3dk.com. Please check it out. Most exciting new feature for people who do site designs in Civil 3D is the new corridor workflow. With this, you can quickly map corridor assemblies to your feature lines by style, name, or other options. Paired with the corridor transition feature, which you can see I'm doing at this curb ramp at the top right, this is the most exciting improvement since Project Explorer was added to Civil 3D. About Civil 3D versions, I would do this with Civil 3D 2024.4. This feature was added in 2024.2, I think that is, but the ability to modify corridors using this new feature line mapping workflow was added in 2024.4. So if you're using one of those earlier versions of 2024, you can create a corridor, but you cannot edit a corridor using this mapping method. The base version of Civil 3D 2025 does not have the modify feature uh, yet, but I'm told that will be added in a future update. Now let's talk about feature lines. Because we need to be able to tell left from right at a glance, I created my feature line styles to use this guardrail line type. Right is the side with the boxes. So that makes it really easy for me to tell what I'm looking at a glance. Now let's talk about assemblies. To use the corridor transition feature, I want an assembly that will work well with it. I'm using the basic curb subassembly here. If I select this, we can look at what parameters it has. I'm going to select this and I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to subassembly help. So the nice thing about this is we get two parameters we really need to adjust. Width and depth, that's it. If I was using another curve subassembly, I would have many parameters I need to change to control the height of that curve. Here I just need to use depth. I'm also going to go down and I'm going to look at the point, link, and shape code section here. So if I look at P2 and P3, those will be modeled as top in my corridor surface. P1 will not. So what I've done to my assembly here, if I zoom in, I've added a tiny sliver of basic lane in here. That will get me the top for the bottom left of the curb. If you don't do this, if you just use basic curb straight away, all you'll get is the tops of the curbs. We want to get the bottom as well. If I was doing an extruded curb where I wanted it to match on the bottom left instead of bottom right, I would add another little sliver of basic lane in there. In my drawing for this, I've created several feature line styles which I can map to each of these assemblies. For today's example, I'm only going to be working with the curb assemblies. Now that my prep steps are done, I'm going to go to the Home menu, Create Design Panel, and select Corridor, Create Corridor. Let me explain this window a bit. This is kind of the heart of the new feature line mapping workflow. At our top left, we can name the corridor. I typically just go with the default. I'll just call it corridor here. I can go description, adjust my corridor and my code set style if I want, anything I would normally do. In the top right, we can create corridors based on alignments and profiles. At the bottom right is our new feature line mapping. So I'm going to click selection filter and I'm going to check style. Then I'm going to expand this. I'm going to uncheck everything and I'm just going to check BCE curve. Now it needs to know what to apply that filter to. So I'm going to select the green box, and rather than going out individually and selecting every feature line that matches the style I want, I'm just going to type in all. It's going to select everything in the object, but it's only going to apply feature line styles that match my feature line style filter I set up. Now you can see the assembly here comes in as none. I'm just going to click one of these green boxes while I have them all selected, and I'm going to select the assembly. I can just go ahead and go down here to where I have my assemblies, select that assembly, and you'll see all those get matched to BCE curve. So it'll automatically set up my region and baseline parameters, so I can just go ahead and hit OK. Now we get to the familiar baseline and region parameters window. I'm going to set my frequencies using the Set All Frequencies button, and I don't like to overdo it with the frequencies. So long tangent, I'm going to go 5 feet. I have a relatively small site, so I'm fine with 5 feet. Curve increment, I'm going to do 0.1. I'm going to ignore spirals because I typically never use spirals. And I'm going to ignore vertical curves because we're not using profiles here. We're using feature lines, which don't have them. So I can go ahead and hit OK here. I'm just going to give it an apply. It's going to prompt me if I want to rebuild the corridor. I'm going to select Rebuild Corridor. You can see it's modeling the corridor now. Now that I rebuilt the corridor, you can see in the top right, I have this curb modeled here for my curb ramp, but it's currently full height. We want to now use the corridor transition feature to model this from 6 inches to 0 to 6 inches at each of the points along my curb ramp. So I'm going to select my corridor. I'm going to go to the context ribbon menu and I'm going to select Edit Corridor Transition. Keep in mind the box in my feature line style is on the right. When we're creating these, we always want to be going down station when we're inputting values in here. So it's going to be asked to select a baseline. I'm just going to click in here. You can see it highlights this with my big thick red line. I'm going to select OK. Now it's going to ask for the subassembly name. And again, I can just click in here within the region and it's going to apply that subassembly name. Now it wants to know what parameter to transition. As you can see when we do this, it's set up to only use one parameter at a time. So you really want to use some forethought when you're creating your assemblies to make sure you're getting what you want. So I'm, of course, going to use depth. All right, I'm going to zoom out here a little bit. I'm going to select Start Station. I'm going to pick right here. It's going to ask for the parameter value at that station, 0.5. I'm okay with that. Now we're going to go to the end station of the transition, and I'm just going to approximate this here. And we'll go for right there. It selects that and wants to know the parameter value at that station. I'm going to go 0. All right, so you see it's highlighted the area in blue here where we're working with. So it wants to know the transition type. I've never used anything but just linear. So now it wants to know the end station for the next transition, and I accidentally clicked something there. Okay, let's add the corridor transition now. Remember, we want to be going down station, and because my box is pointing kind of towards the center of the curve here, I can tell I should be entering values from the top of my screen to the bottom. All right, so I'm going to hit Add Transition. It's going to ask for the subassembly. I'm just going to pick to the corridor region here. Now, we're going to be adjusting the depth. Again, that's the value of using the basic curve here. We only have that depth parameter that we really need to change. So select the start station for the transition of the depth. I'm just going to kind of wing a point on here. I would want to locate that a little more precisely. Parameter at that at station, I'm going to accept the 6 inches there. Enter the end station. I'm going to snap to a near point here. Now you can see it highlights the area in blue that we're working with. Now it wants to know the parameter value at station 0.5, or at station 6.46. I'm going to go 0.001. I never like going to true 0 with corridor assemblies because you never know how they're going to behave. So it wants to know the transition type. I have never used anything but linear. Now it's going to ask for the next end station. So I'm going to go ahead and select over here. We'll go right here. Again, it highlights in blue. It wants to know the parameter value at the end of that station. And again, we're going to go 0.001. And the transition type, again, I'm going to go with linear. I haven't experimented with the other transition types, but if you know of the use case for those, please let me know. So end station for the next portion of the transition, we're going to select that endpoint there. So now we get this next piece. And then we want that to go back to 0.5 foot. And again, we're going to use the linear transition type. That is about it. So you can see we've added 3 sections to our transition here. We're going from 0.5 to 0, going from 0 to 0, and 0 to 0.5. You were probably thinking that's going to work, but the thing I always forget whenever I do the corridor transition is to hit the apply button. It doesn't actually do anything until you hit the apply. Now I think we can pull this aside. You can see we've got our quarter transition in there working perfectly. We're going from the full height to flat height, and then we're going back up. So that's working really well. So now let's talk about quarter surfaces. So I'm going to select my quarter. I'm going to go over to quarter properties. And I'm going to go to the surfaces tab. So I'm going to do this the way you would do it almost any other one. Again, we've designed everything to work well with the top codes, so I can add the tops. And keep in mind, if you use the basic curve and you don't add that little lane sliver in there like I've done, it's going to look really funky because it's not. It's just going to be going from top of this to top of the next one. So if I go ahead and zoom out now, now you can see I've got a bunch of my surface done in here. I'm going to adjust my screen view now by going to viewport configuration single. So now I have a bunch of items in here which are just standard feature lines. I'm just going to go ahead, right click, select similar, so I can get all of these that I've defined in here as just regular feature lines. Oh, I see I've got this one in here as BCE pad. This one should just be basic feature line. So let me go ahead and select another one, go in here and hit select similar. And now I can just right click, add to surfaces break line. I'm going to accept that quarter surface. I am going to add a supplementing factor in here of 5 foot, and I'm going to use a mid-ordinate distance of 0.1 foot. The supplementing factor is very useful. I have a separate video on that if you want to check it out. All right, this looks pretty good. I have a couple of things I might want to tweak over here. I haven't yet modeled my sidewalk here, but I already have that set up as one of our feature lines here that I can apply to our sidewalk assembly. And in that case, that is just going to be matching this polyline on the outside, and that just works very similar to the other feature line tools. Really quick, and the thing I like is it's dynamic. If I adjust my original feature line, my quarter is going to go with it. Once it rebuilds, that is. So let's just demo that here really quick. There have been other ways to model these, and you can see my surface just updated. Let me go ahead and rebuild the quarter, though. There have been other ways to do dynamic curves, but that usually involve grading objects, which can be fairly unreliable to work with. So this is a big improvement for anything site design related, where you're doing a lot of stuff with feature lines. Anyway, again, my name is Brian Stramberg. Check out my blog at c3dk.com. Have a great day.